Hi, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation. Today's topic is I liked him how he was when we first met. Welcome back. I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation. Today's topic is I liked him how he was when we first met. And I'll bet you anything he would say the same thing about you. And this is a dilemma that people have when they get married, and it's no one's fault, really. We could say, oh, it's his fault, oh, it's my fault, my expectations are off, or he's really changed, I've really changed, we haven't grown together, we've grown apart. All these kinds of things are what you will discover, these situational tragedies, or what you find in traditional marriage counseling, and we don't do things that way. I started the Marriage Foundation back in 2001, but I was a divorce mediator, and when a couple asked me at that time to help them save their marriage instead of end it, I thought, there's got to be more to marriage. We must be missing something because the divorce rate is over 50%. Okay, that's tragic. Can you imagine if every time you got in a plane, you only had a 50% chance of making it to your destination? And what they did was build more hospitals and morgues? That doesn't work. So I thought there's something wrong here. We obviously don't know how to make our marriages work. So I dug deep. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't find the answers right away. But there were some questions I had to ask before I really got serious. And those questions, and these questions are interesting. Why do we get married? Why? Well, you could say, oh, I fell in love. In fact, what I did in the beginning was I asked everybody I bumped into, why did you get married? Virtually every single person said, I fell in love with him. I fell in love with her. And I thought, there's something missing here. Of course, that was sort of the impetus to get married. But why get married? It took me a while, but I finally realized the truth. It's so simple, it'll blow your mind. We get married to be happy, to be happier. And then I thought, wow, I've never heard that before. And all of the people in the world, they never heard about it before either. And how do I know that? Because if we knew that was the purpose of marriage, then we would be doing things to create happiness in our marriage, right? And so I thought, okay, well, what creates happiness in marriage? What creates happiness? And then another kind of search began. What creates happiness? Now, you ask a miser, he'll say more money. You ask someone addicted to food, and they'll say more food. But not everyone can have more food or more money. But we all can have one thing in greater quantity, endless quantity, and that is love. Wow. So how does this tie together? Because I want to give you help here. Yes, I have books that you could read that would really help you go far. I've got Lessons for a Happy Marriage, which I wrote after about 8 years of working with individuals and couples. And then I wrote Breaking the Cycle, which I used to help train marriage counselors in the right way. And that's fine. And then later on, we even went online. That's what we have now. If you were to go to our website, you would see we have courses for men, we have courses for women, and they're different. So going back to this topic, what is it that makes us happy is love, more love. And what we're not taught, and it's a tremendous shame that we're not taught this, but this is the truth. The truth is we need to cultivate love. We need to infuse our marriages with happiness. So does that mean you go around, hey, why did you do this? Why can't you be like everyone else? Blah, 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 blah. That doesn't create happiness, does it? And so all we need to do, for starters, is not do certain things that we are used to doing. So going back to the question, why don't I feel the way I do about him or her now? What happened? I'll tell you what happened, because I identified this as the number one killer of all marriages. And I called it over familiarity. Over familiarity. What does that mean? Well, if you have a brother or a sister and you grew up with them, you know exactly what that means. You treat each other like crap because you're used to each other and you know where all your buttons are, all their buttons are. And when you get a little bit mad, you push those buttons. But marriage isn't like growing up with your siblings. Marriage's purpose, don't forget, this is very important. It should become your guiding star. Marriage's purpose is to be happy. And it's such a setup for happiness. Here you met your soulmate. And I'm going to tell you a little secret here. They're the only person that you actually choose with no compulsion whatsoever to love. Everyone else in our lives, our parents, our children, we're kind of biologically forced to love them. And we go along with it, of course, because it's good. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. But when we choose our soulmate, who we're going to be with for the rest of our lives, it's a choice. It's free will. Think about this as a golden opportunity to learn how to love. And this is, okay, I told you why we want to get married, what we're seeking out of marriage, what it's all about, happiness and love. Now I'm going to tell you the purpose of marriage, because everything has a purpose. God didn't make a random creation. Everything has a purpose. So the purpose of marriage is to, remember, we're taught in the scriptures to love our neighbor, love our enemy, love everyone, love, 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 right? Not so easy. Easy to say, easy to read, easy to grasp. But when it comes to loving our spouse, we're now in a closed environment where you could either exemplify soulmates, where you're always constantly expressing love, and there's the purpose, to learn to love them unconditionally. Not that they will love you in return, because then it's not unconditional. Learn to love them unconditionally. And in this small space that I call the sacred space of marriage, and I go into it very deeply in the courses especially, which are super courses for helping struggling marriages, you either could be soulmates in this sacred space of marriage or cellmates. It's a choice. It's a choice. You see, God gave us free will, didn't He? He gave us volition. In other words, we can do whatever we want. So if our tendency is to get angry, our tendency is to get jealous, our tendency is to be offended, we don't have to go along with those tendencies. Those are habits. Again, I go into them very extensively in the courses and also in the books to a large degree. But it's all about, here's what it's all about. Expect only of yourself. Don't expect of your husband or your wife. Only of yourself. If you have, let's say you have a jar. We talked about it as a sacred space of marriage. But let's talk about it as a container. If you have a container and it just has water in it, water is very good. You got to have water to live. And you put in a little bit of sugar, it sweetens it up. And you put in a little more sugar, it sweetens it up. You say a kind word, that's like sugar. You give a beautiful smile, you just touch. You say, I love you. Sugar, sugar, sugar. What's inside now this container that we call your marriage? the sweetness of your love manifested, right? But what happens if you go, you never do anything right? Whoa, that's not sugar. It's toxic. And this is the state of most marriages. But if you make up your mind, I'm only going to sweeten our marriage, then it will be sweet. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? You know, we give these talks to help you. And if you need more help, there's a link below that you could write to one of our counselors. I train each and every one of them myself with an online course, of course. And you could sign up too if you're an aspiring marriage counselor, you've always wanted to do that, and you've been a coach, or you already are. We have many of our marriage counselors were previously just doing Western psychological methodology, but they saw that this way is so much better. Even some people started from scratch. They took the course because they were having difficulty in their marriage, and they ended up becoming TMF marriage counselors. You can do the same. So if you need that help, that's great. If you want a free course, it's a very short version. It's not as extensive, but it's free. You could sign up, and you'll get it in 3 parts. It's 10 days, and you'll learn so much. Or you could get the whole course, which is 3 months, 12 weeks, and you start with a free trial, and it's very inexpensive, especially for what you'll get out of it. Or you could just try one of my books. You'll get so much out of it. I'm Paul Friedman. I'm so glad you stopped by. Like the video, share it with someone you know who you think would appreciate it on social media. If you want, you could subscribe to the channel. I'm so glad you stopped by. And in the comments section, if you have a question about your own situation, go ahead and put it in the comments section, and I will respond to it. God bless you, and I'm so glad you stopped by. Take care.